love, you're listening to the Died on Ashanta podcast. I'm a resilience strategist and migrant integration specialist who has spent the last 20 years traveling, working, and studying throughout the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. As a globetrotter, I quickly learned how to bounce back from crisis and how to thrive in new and strange places. I've used my training and experience to develop a resilience-based framework, and now I help others to get over the hurdles that come with living in a foreign country. Now on this podcast, I invite you to join me on this journey of living with simplicity, joy, and resiliency. From green smoothies to goal setting, we'll cover it all. We'll talk about all the things that help us to thrive through the storm. Welcome to the Dad and Ashanta podcast. This is episode 27, and today we're talking about self-awareness. Now, when you think of spiritual resilience, it is looking at that part of you that no one sees, that part of you that only you may be familiar with if you allow yourself to really look and be honest and transparent. And it is that part of you that if you develop strength in that aspect of your life, then very little from outside of you can break you or hold you back. And so this is why self-awareness is important for us as we cultivate our spiritual resilience. Now, you often think about how we interact with people and how sometimes we get upset about maybe how someone has chosen to respond to us or not to respond to us. And we can end up feeling hurt or broken. And just that one interaction, because so much of who we are is about how we relate to others, that can break down that sense of strength and confidence that we have to even pursue just our general goals in life. But I want to suggest to you that these kind of, probably you would call it, traumatic experiences are very normal and they're inevitable. Every human being is different, and so when you deal with people, whether you are interacting with people in a course that you're completing or your place of employment or even within your family or your friend circle, the chances that you may have a disagreement or different value systems are very high. And so when it is that you feel like someone may have offended you or even you have offended others, don't look at it as something being wrong with you or the other person, but look at it as a part of the journey, something that's very normal. But even though it is normal, it is still something that needs to be addressed, because unresolved trauma can really break you apart and diminish your ability to bounce back from any kind of crisis or challenge that you may face in life. So it's very important, as much as we acknowledge that, disagreements or conflicts are a part of life, that we also realize that each situation that is unpleasant, undesirable, needs to be acknowledged and addressed so we can learn from the experience and move forward. And so even as I mentioned, learning from the experience, your ability to recover from an unpleasant experience, an unpleasant encounter with others within your new community or your old community, and your ability to grow from those experiences, that is only possible if you face up to the pain of the experience and learn from it. And this is what is holding back a lot of us from cultivating spiritual resilience, because we refuse to acknowledge the pain. We're quick to say, oh, that doesn't bother me, or I'm thick-skinned, when in reality there's a part of us that has felt, even if the mild word we'll use is offended. Sometimes we are really broken and hurt by the experiences that we have. But until we face and admit that we have been hurt and see what we can learn from the interaction and probably even repair that connection that you have with someone else, then it's not possible to recover or even more so to grow. And so this all comes down to what we're talking about today: self awareness. Self awareness requires self reflection. If you don't look within, look into yourself and be honest and even be vulnerable, then it is not possible to develop or sustain a state of self awareness. Self awareness requires that you question your motives. Question your motives for acting or not acting, because sometimes within conflict or unpleasant situations, you either choose to behave a certain way that probably isn't like you, or you just shut down and you refuse to interact. You don't respond, you stop talking, whatever it is that you think is your coping strategy. But we need to question our motives. Why did I decide to not respond? Or why did I decide to go to the person and act in this way? We have to question our motives in order to be self-aware. So of course, while talking about all these theories, we have to bring it back to kind of some practical application. And so I'll give an example that will probably help us to see how this works out negatively or positively in terms of how we address the pains that we experience in different types of crisis in our life, and how learning from those experiences can cultivate spiritual resilience in us. Now, let us say, for example, you are in a new location, you start making friends with people, and you find out, let's say this person is a classmate, and you find out this person's birthday is coming up, and you really like them. They're a cool person, you get along with them, you think they're a good company, and so you say, you know what, I want this person to feel really celebrated and appreciated for their birthday, so I'm gonna go out and get them a really nice gift, something I would appreciate. And then you think, you know what, I'm going to tell all our other friends or our classmates that we should all take them to dinner. And so you buy a really lovely gift for your friend. You don't spare any expense. The same amount you would have spent on yourself, you spent it on the gift. And then you all choose a nice restaurant. You go out and you have a grand time, and you ensure your friend doesn't spend a dime because it's their day, and you make them feel lovely. And then time goes on. Everybody has a fabulous time, and time passes. And guess what? Your birthday comes around. And this friend that you bought a lovely gift for, you arranged the dinner party and everyone came and you all contributed and covered the expenses. This friend fails to celebrate you on your birthday. You don't get a gift. You don't get a call. You don't get any birthday dinner. Nothing happens. They just go on with their life, and you are shell-shocked. You are stunned. You're filled with feelings of pain, disappointment, rage. You feel betrayed. Like, how could they do this to you after all you did for them? You begin to feel neglected, to say, what could have been so important that they would not have taken the time to celebrate you on your birthday? You start to feel unimportant. You say, well, maybe I'm not as valuable as a friend to them as I thought I would have been. And you have all these questions, and you're boiling up in probably rage and just regret. You're like, I shouldn't have given them that gift, and why did I spend my money to put on a big splash of a party for them? And you start reeling. And it is possible that the person probably didn't view you as valuable as a friend or as important a person in their life as you thought they should have been treated. It could have been just a simple difference in cultures, where maybe birthdays are not acknowledged in the same way that you're accustomed to. So many reasons could have been the backstory to why that friend chose not to celebrate you. But within the whole context of self-awareness and facing that pain and learning from the experience, what do you think you should do? Now you're feeling betrayed, neglected, unimportant, and you're so upset. The thing that I would recommend is that as you feel the pain of that disappointment, that negative and undesired experience, you have to first of all accept that your feelings are valid. If you don't accept your feelings are valid, you will stuff them aside, you'll pretend nothing is bothering you, and you probably even go back to school and smile with a friend as if nothing happened. You don't say anything to them, but you have to acknowledge what you are feeling and accept that your feelings are valid. That yes, as a person, you expected that if this is my friend, they will celebrate me on a day that's important to me. The next step you're going to take is that you're going to pay attention to the lessons that can come out of this experience. I threw my friend a fabulous birthday celebration when it was my birthday, then they didn't return the favor. What is a lesson that I can learn out of that? And then the third and final step is that you're going to identify what needs do I have maybe in this interaction. It could be the friend with the birthday. It could be maybe a professor at who is supervising your research. It could be your employer or your team member at work. Whatever the situation is that you have been hurt or disappointed. The third step is to find out what needs were not met. So, for example, in the case of the birthday party scenario, you had the need to be acknowledged that you're a friend and your birthday is an important day to be celebrated. You want to be appreciated. The fact that you made a big effort to celebrate your friend on their special day, you want to be celebrated on your day too if you are someone they care about. Another need that you may have, you want to be celebrated for the wonderful person you are, to be told how much they appreciate you. You want them to maybe acknowledge a big milestone. Maybe you have a significant birthday. Maybe, some people have special numbers or whatever. You want to be celebrated. You want to be acknowledged for being important. You want to be appreciated, for people to look at you and say, I'm so glad that I met you because we can do so and so together. You want to feel valued. Those are needs. And because your birthday was not acknowledged, you weren't celebrated, those needs went unmet. And so that's why you'd end up with those pained and unpleasant feelings. And so then you may begin to start asking yourself questions. What are the lessons, or what is the lesson that I can take from this? And I could suggest that maybe in this scenario, maybe a lesson that you could learn is that it's important to have a reciprocity in relationships. So maybe that's a lesson you'd walk away with, to say you shouldn't maybe lavishly and abundantly shower someone with gifts and maybe affection and other things without first understanding that the feelings are mutual. Maybe you chose a classmate or a friend to celebrate and make a big splash for, that person doesn't really view you on the same level that you view them, and so there is no reciprocity. So that may be an important lesson for you to learn, because in the back of your mind, maybe deep in your subconscious, you thought, people would call it buying friends. You thought that maybe if I do this for this person, then they will think I'm the best friend they ever had, and then we will go off into the sunset and be best friends forever. And so that was your motivation. You thought, if I do this for them, then they will treat me that way. And that's not the root of reciprocity. Reciprocity starts with a mutual understanding, clearly expressed expectation. So that may be the lesson that you needed to learn, the lesson of reciprocity, and that you can't buy friends with expensive gifts or a dinner party. So that's just one example of how you could apply the whole process of and practice of self-awareness in crisis situation, in difficult situations, so that you can grow and learn and change and increase that inner strength that gives you spiritual resilience. Now, of course, I'm going to share a proverb with you, and this one is a Congolese proverb, and it says, "A priest sees people at their best, a lawyer at their worst, but a doctor sees them as they really are." So the question is, are you seeing yourself as you really are? That is the question about self-awareness. Hopefully, it won't be the priest or the lawyer or the doctor who is seeing the different aspects of who we are, but that we can practice self-reflection, honesty, vulnerability, and we can question our motives and look into why we are feeling the ways we feel, why we have done or refused to do the things that we have, and grow and change and learn. The book that I'm going to recommend this week is by Valerie Burton, and it's called Life Coaching for Successful Women: Powerful Questions That Lead to Practical Answers. And this book is chock full of questions that, if sometimes you're struggling with, how do I question my motives, you could start here. A lot of questions that you could check on. So that's it for this week. I hope this triggered a lot of thoughts for you that would help to shape you as we move ahead. Thanks so much for listening, love. If you enjoyed this episode, head over to diadanashanta.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's message. Be sure to drop your email address so I can send you some helpful resources, updates, and the occasional music video that I may have on repeat. Make sure you subscribe and spread the love with someone you care about.